Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Happiness Jungle TV show. I'm your guest host, CamiBaker.com, and we are continuing on this episode with yet another mutual friend of Michael Griffith's, which is Tim Francis. Tim and I met at an event of Michael's a few months ago in California, and I knew that the information that he has to share would be very powerful for a lot of my business friends especially. So, Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Cami. Pleasure to be with you. And you look fantastic as always.
Thank you. The lights in here are great for my hair. I appreciate how they set the lights up in here. And you look beautiful as always. You're getting your little square put in your pocket. I appreciate you totally being the gentleman you always are. And share with our viewers a little bit about what is GreatAssistant.com.
You bet. So years ago, I read a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And I thought that all I needed to do is hire an assistant, and me as an entrepreneur, I would have all the freedom in the world. And unfortunately, it wasn't that simple. And after a number of hiring misfires around North America, not just North America, but around the world, I realized, like all good entrepreneurs, I should just do it all myself. That's what entrepreneurs always say, right? I can do it better myself. I can do it faster myself. And the problem with that is it led to my workload just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And at one point, I had a series of unfortunate events. I thought that I had it made in the shade because I was a full-time entrepreneur and I was living my dream. But unfortunately, the real estate market crashed in 2008. And so I lost $100,000 of mostly other people's money, which was very, very, very heartbreaking. And on top of that, I had a mentor who ended up being the leader of one of the two leaders of a $12 million Ponzi scheme. And so his business partner was convicted, barred from holding securities for 25 years, and given a $250,000 fine. And he basically left the country. So it was a very difficult time. It was a very dark time, and all of the stress and the exhaustion of all of it led to me actually developing an illness called erythema nodosum. And from basically January through March, so for 3 months in the start of 2011, so almost 9 years ago now, I couldn't walk. So I had to move back in with my parents for full-time care. I had to choose between my mom flipping a laundry hamper upside down for me to sit on in the shower, or if I didn't want to do that, I'd have to get a sponge bath. So there I was, 28 years old. I was a former touring drummer. I had been on top of the world. Had played at the Western Canadian Music Awards, had 4 houses, thought I had it, I won a 30 under 30 award for myself in my home city of Edmonton, Canada. And now all of that unwound. And there I was under the full-time care of my parents. So at one point when I was laying in bed, it was sometime in February of 2011, in the second month of the illness, I felt a warmth in my body, and I heard a voice, and it said, "Tim, is this what you want?" And Cami, in that moment, time stood still. I didn't know if a second went by or a minute or an hour. It was one of those defining moments of life. And before I knew it, I heard another voice, a very small, weak, and distant voice that said yes. And that voice was my own. And in that moment, all these dominoes started to fall in my head, my heart, and in my spirit. And in that moment, I realized that I've been chasing fame and fortune when what I needed to be chasing was mastery. And so from that moment on, I committed myself to getting a little bit better at entrepreneurship with every week that went by. And I came across a quote, and that quote said, "Hell is meeting the man I could have been." Hell is meeting the man I could have been. And that really shook me to the core. And I knew that if I was ever going to fulfill my potential in this lifetime to make use of the gifts that I've been given and the incredible circumstances, to be born into a wonderful part of the world and to have many advantages, that I was going to have to get help. I really realized that business is a team sport, just like life is a team sport. There's that great quote that if we want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And the problem was that I'd already tried hiring an assistant overseas, and it was a train wreck. In fact, I tried Pakistan, India, the Philippines, Jamaica. I tried all over the world. And I realized, even though I didn't have the money and I didn't know what I would delegate first, and this is the big one for entrepreneurs, I didn't want to let go of control or trust, that if I was going to fulfill my potential, I would have to get over all of that. And so I bit the bullet. I put an ad up on a hiring board online here in the United States, and I met my executive assistant, Sarah. And so for 6 years, Sarah was my executive assistant. In the 12 months prior to having her, I made, I think it was $37,000. And in the 12 months after I hired her, I made $109,000. So it just speaks to the power of when you've got a great assistant to help you out, it really frees you up to focus on the big things. And so as Sarah was coming on board with me and she was taking more and more off my plate and I could focus on bigger and bigger tasks, my friends started asking me for help. My entrepreneur friends said, Tim, it's great what you're doing, but your assistant, how did you make that happen? And I had enough entrepreneurs ask me for help, Cami, that I finally just launched a service called Great Assistant. And now I've got 7 team members, and we've helped place over 250 assistants for entrepreneurs across the United States and Canada. And here we are today.
Wow, what a powerful story. I had no idea about your whole history. And, it's funny that we're having this conversation today because I'm that much closer to hiring you guys to help me find the right assistant because, like you, I had an assistant from the Philippines that was wonderful at $3.50 an hour. But there were major limitations and no communication really. But the things that she did was great. But when she disappeared, I now have another assistant in the Philippines. But my God, there is so much that I could do with someone who's here in the United States, speaks good English, very easy to get a hold of, etc. And I actually just hired a new mentor to help me get some other things in place. In the next 30 to 60 days, I'm going to have you guys help me find the right person. So talk to us a little bit about what that process looks like.
So I realized after I made the mistake that I really had a lottery mentality around getting an assistant. Just like how some people will say, oh, if I just get a record deal, my life will be set. Or if I just win the lottery, I'll never have to work again. Or if I just find that right person, I'll never have to worry. I'll never have another relationship problem. Like life will be just peaches. And that was my approach to getting an assistant too, that, all I got to do is just hire them and everything will be great. And what I quickly realized that at least 50% of the reason why my assistants of the past didn't work out was actually, Cami, because of me. It's not just a matter of getting a great assistant. I mean, that is absolutely a huge part of it. Like, just to give you some context, when we're finding an assistant for an entrepreneur, we're looking at the equivalent of 50 to 100 candidates to come up with one winning assistant. So, like, there is a lot to be said about getting that great assistant, and getting a great assistant on their own does not mean that you will keep that assistant, nor will they be profitable for you. So I realized that a traditional hiring model just wasn't enough. We needed to address the whole picture, not just hiring the great assistant, but helping the entrepreneur to become a great leader. So what our process looks like, it's a 30-day process when someone comes on board with us. And by that, I mean an entrepreneur. If an entrepreneur hires us, and on day one, the entrepreneur will meet with one of our onboarding consultants. And that onboarding consultant will hear about your business, will hear about what kind of tasks you've got going on, and generally getting familiar with where you're at. And then from there, they'll also actually assign you some homework to complete. And so during the next 30 days, there's kind of like 2 tracks that take off and they meet at the end of 30 days. And that first track is our team is going to find you your great assistant. And while that's happening, you as the entrepreneur are working with our onboarding consultant to establish things like your core values, to find the first 3 tasks you're going to delegate. You learn about a tool called 360 Delegation, which is something I invented just out of necessity, and it makes delegating so clear and so complete. It really cuts down a lot of the confusion when you're handing something off to a teammate. So as you're developing as a leader and you're really crystallizing what it is you're going to hand off, we're helping to find that assistant. We're bringing you finalists, and when you pick the finalists that you want to keep, we're now at the end of 30 days. And guess what? Instead of having that awkward moment where it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And they say, well, I don't know, what do you want me to do? And there's just kind of like this Wild West of people, Wild West stare down. No more, right? Because you've already got the work ready. You know what you're going to delegate. You know how you're ready to onboard them. Then they just can come right in, and you guys can get to work and be real productive right from the very first day.
Love it. And I love that a good offense is a good defense. So I want to handle any questions that people are going to have. So question number 1, why can't I just hire somebody myself? Why would I hire you to do that?
You know what? And my question would be, if you can do it all yourself, just do it yourself. Obviously, there's a fee to use our service. And if you can do it for free, then by all means, go do it. Now, I think that the other question is it really free to go do it yourself?
No, it's not. I'm just here to tell you. It has cost, I know having a decent assistant has cost me at least $500,000 in the last 4 years.
Wow. And why do you say that?
Because of all the things that don't get done, because of all the speaking engagements I'm not getting. Listen, I'm selling myself on hiring you, and I appreciate that. But like even now, there are so many TEDx talks that I want to apply for, and so many other speaking engagements, and just the process of looking them up and applying and all. If I could delegate that to someone, I would be getting on stages and making, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in a pop, as opposed to sitting around plugging it in for, get one done a week. It's just horrible.
Right. I think you're really pointing to something very powerful, and total, my hat goes off to you, is something we call surgeon in the room. So if we think about a surgery, there's so many steps that happen. We need to do x-rays of the patient and maybe an MRI, and we need to diagnose what their condition or their situation is. We need to book the room. We need to book the nurses. We need to make sure all the tools are there. We need to set up the room. We need to sterilize the room. There's all these steps that have to happen before the surgery itself happens. And then the surgery happens. And then after that, there's all kinds of things that happen after the surgery. We need to clean up the room, and there's post-operative paperwork that needs to be done, and on and on and on. There's like at least 500 steps that go into a single surgery. Now, if we ask ourselves, what does the surgeon do? The surgeon only does 3 things. And these are the exact same 3 things that entrepreneurs should be focused on. That's strategy, high-level skill, and high-level access. So in the world of surgery, strategy would be diagnosing what the condition or the injury is, and choosing what is the procedure that we're going to go do, right? And then maybe like which prescriptions a person should have for post-op. High-level skill, which is our second category, that's actually doing the procedure itself, cutting open the knee or the breast or the whatever it is. Thirdly, high-level access. That's the third category, is high-level access. And what that looks like is maybe that surgeon needs a second opinion, and they have access to other surgeons to be able to get their feedback. Something else is their medical license. Like in the surgery room, there's only the surgeon that has access to the surgeon's medical license to be able to have the authority to sign off on certain things. So for us as entrepreneurs, some things that we have high-level access to is like our bank accounts or signing off on certain legal documents, right? That kind of thing. So the more that Cami Baker and or Tim Francis and or any entrepreneur can be focused on strategy, high-level skill, high-level access, that means that we're doing things like speaking, like negotiating, like selling, right? These high-level activities. And then things that are like administrative, maintenance, coordination, setup, basic research, onboarding, all of that can be done by other people. And when you've got a great assistant that, in my view, similar, same time zone, same first language, and or has to be able to speak at a native level, and also has a knowledge of American or Canadian business culture, and American and Canadian business culture is very similar. That really, really, really speeds things up, and it means that you can hand things off more and more quickly, and you can spend more and more and more time as the surgeon. And isn't the world a better place when the surgeon can just do surgery in this room and leave this room, go to the next room, surgery in the next room? We're going to save a lot more lives. There's going to be a lot of people that get taken care of, compared to what a lot of entrepreneurs do is to be the surgeon, but yet they're also the janitor and they're the nurse aide and they're. So I think you're on the right pace.
I've heard this same analogy around Dr. Oz specifically as a surgeon, and also Joel Osteen. That each of them they know exactly what their thing is. And so for Joel Osteen as a speaker and as a man of the cloth, his thing is he is preparing one 30-minute talk every week. His whole focus is on doing that. All the other stuff, all the lighting and just all that stuff is for somebody else to do. And the new mentor that I have, she wants me to write down everything that I do for the next 2 weeks and take a look at all the things that I could be delegating. I don't even have to do that. I already know. that I should be getting paid $350 an hour, and my assistant should be $20 or less or so. So. Right. So awesome. Right. So tell us a little bit about how you go about finding them. Now, we don't need all your deep, dark secrets, but there's certain places that you look, and there's a certain process you go through.
Yeah, and I'd actually recommend the exercise that your mentor recommended. We actually have a sheet that is a template that people can use to do that exact same exercise. So if people go to greatassistant.com/time study, you can actually download a spreadsheet that actually has all that. You can just punch it in so you can find out the tasks that you need to be handing off. So I love that your mentor mentioned that. In terms of where we're finding people, the best place to find people, the best value for the dollar is the United States or Canada. People who are coming out of corporate or professional America or Canada for that matter. People who have at least 3 years experience, oftentimes more, which really means they've got the fit and the finish. And a huge part of this is actually having common goals. If you've got someone who is just kind of dipping their toe into the water of being an executive assistant, that's probably not the profile that's going to most likely keep them sticking around for quite a while. We want someone, maybe it's someone who's a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad. Maybe it's someone who wants to, maybe they're a military husband or wife, and, they move around a lot. And so to have a traditional 9-to-5 job in a physical location just doesn't work for them. So that's why we really look at that similar same time zone, similar same, first language and a knowledge of native North American culture to hire our assistants. And there's a wide range of different pools that we go to. Some are public, some are private. Does that kind of answer your question in terms of like the profile, the kind of person that we want to hire?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that our viewers are really paying attention to the fact that there is an art and a science to this. It's funny you mentioned military. One of my mentors in real estate, his right-hand man, Ken, was retired military. And when I was working at this real estate office, Ken had been working for him at the time for 10 years, and that was 18 years ago, and he's still there. The guy's like, he must be pushing 80 by now. He was retired from the military, so he was at least in his 50s or 60s when he started working for this guy. But talk about having somebody that was structured and committed and on time. I mean, I would love to get somebody from the military to be my assistant.
Wonderful. And so what else have you tried and what's worked or hasn't worked?
Well, thank you for asking, because we need to let everybody know where the pitfalls are and what not to do. So here's what I did that was interesting recently. I put a post on social media. Hey, I need an assistant. Well, when you do that, the first time I did that, I just need an assistant, I had 200 messages, and what a waste of human life that was, just going through, hey, I've never done it before, but I'd love to give it a try. Hey, do you know Mary? Hey, Bob, call Cami, and all that stuff was big waste. So then this was a few months ago when I first needed somebody this go around. And then what I did was I got really specific. So a couple of months ago, I laid it out. I said, if you do not have all of these factors, you're not the person. Don't bother to reach out. And I said, you're going to work for 5 hours for free to show me that you do these things, because I'm not going to pay you to find out you don't know what you're doing. Oh my God, the pushback I got. Now I put this on Facebook and LinkedIn. On Facebook, I got some of the nastiest comments. Who does she think she is, wanting somebody to work for free? That must be against the law. Oh my God, what a tyrant, right? But on LinkedIn, I had one person respond the next morning. She sent me a message. She said, I can do all of that. As a matter of fact, I'm on the West Coast. I'm 3 hours different from you. Oh, forget it. I haven't even heard from you yet. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So she took action, and she actually started doing things, right? So I thought, after all that, I did find someone, but she's $60 an hour. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so with all that being said, she did some fun stuff, but $60 an hour, and she has a full-time corporate job. So she had been following me for a long time, and she just loved me and my material and wanted to get involved in all that. But ultimately, she's not a committed executive assistant that this is what she does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, can I give you a quick trick or tip?
Sure.
Sure. So So oftentimes people are asking me like what pay rate would make sense for someone that I described, like coming out of corporate or professional America, based in the United States or Canada. We've hired hundreds in the $18 to $22 an hour range. They're out there by the droves. And one of the challenges, and I love that you're pointing to this, is, geez, if you put something up on social media or if you put something up on pretty much any job posting, you are going to get an avalanche of applications. And so here's a trick. I call this the perfect job posting. And so what you do is you tell people that to apply for the job, they need to email you at a specific email address. Now, I recommend you actually set up a different email, even if it's a Gmail account. And that way you can set the vacation auto reply to automatically say, we've received your application. If you haven't heard from us in the next 72 hours, you can consider yourself as not having been shortlisted. And so now you don't have to do any work to get back to anyone. This vacation auto reply is doing all the work. So also it prevents all these emails from coming into your inbox, which would probably distract you from getting things done in the middle of the day. And there's kind of that kid in the candy store, like, oh, I wonder what this person is. I wonder what that person is, right? Which is exciting. So we have a dedicated email inbox. And then from there, so in the instructions, you also tell people that they need to email you to the special email inbox, and the subject line needs to be something very specific, like, and it might even be a little bit offbeat, something like, hey, Cami, comma, this is insert your name from insert your city. And that's what the subject line needs to be. And in the body, it's got to say, hey, Cami, comma, and then first reason, first paragraph, second reason, second paragraph, third reason, third paragraph of why you'd be a great assistant. First paragraph, red font, 12-point Times New Roman. Second paragraph, blue font, 8-point Helvetica. Third paragraph, black font, 14-point Arial. And then a closing sentence, including 2 blog posts that you've seen on my website, camibaker.com. Closing salutation. Now, Cami, by having that happen, guess what? First of all, the secret email, not the secret, but the dedicated unique inbox will take care of getting back to everyone, so you don't have to. Then from there, when you're ready, once a day, twice a day for the next week or so to go in there, all you got to do, you don't have to open a single email. Just look at the subject lines. And if someone can't get the subject line right, you just delete them. And they've already been emailed by the vacation auto reply, right? So you just delete them, no problem. Then from there, of those who remain, you click on it, don't even read it, but just look, is it red, blue, black font? If they can't get that right, then they probably don't have the attention to detail you need for them to be an executive assistant. They probably don't have the process orientation, probably don't have the goal and the motivation to be a great assistant for you. Just delete them. Just delete them, delete them, delete them. And only those who've actually successfully done the perfect job posting will you then reply to. And at that point, I would actually give people a work test, which I could tell you more about if you like. But just that single step on its own, the perfect job posting, will save a ton of time to cut out a lot of the people who just clearly are not qualified for the position.
I totally agree, and that's why in that post that I had, it said, if you can't do these things, don't message me and tell me how you're ready to learn, because you're already not following instruction, because I said if you can't do them, then don't even message me. So,
right.
but you know, the more you talk about it, I mean, what you're talking about are all great tips. They're all free tips. But the more I think about it, the more you talk about it, and the faster I know that my business is exploding now, the more I just need someone like you to take care of it. So we've got about 3 minutes left on the show. What are some ways that people can get in touch with you? And you mentioned earlier the time management sheet. Are there any other types of things, resources you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So the top resource I can share is our client advisor is ready to talk to any entrepreneur. Now, if you're not sure if you're ready, I still recommend you book the call. Eric is a really, really good guy. He's got a young family. They're such great people. And he's really talented at being able to hear about your situation and to see if, in fact, it's the right time for you to get an assistant. And if it's not, he'll give you a sense of when maybe it is a good time. He'll give you a sense of if our program's a good fit. And if it's not, he can recommend other programs or tools to go and check out. And he can actually also help you assess the path to profitability to see if, in fact, there's a path to making this assistant a great investment or not. And if not, he'll be the first to say so. He's willing to meet for about 45 to 55 minutes with an entrepreneur who's interested. And if it is a fit, he can let an entrepreneur know what it would look like to hire our program and whatnot. So he's helped dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs around North America already to kind of sift and sort and to see what the right fit is for them. And you could just head over to greatassistant.com/apply. It's greatassistant.com/apply, and Eric's calendar is there, and you can book yourself right in there.
Well, and I can speak on behalf for Eric. He and I spoke a couple of months ago, and, to your point, timing has to be right for everything. This isn't right for everyone, but for those of us that it is right for, I'm guessing that you can find assistants that can book speaking engagements and make those kinds of phone calls and inquiries about different speaking engagements, yes?
I would say that you're the surgeon in the room, and if you have to have that high level access to get the stage, then we need you to do that part. Now, once it comes down to like, hey, let's make sure that we've got the right contracts, and you show your assistant this is what I want in the contract. And when it comes to speaking details, travel details, is it your clicker or their clicker, your laptop, their laptop, all that? There's a million details that go into speaking, as you know. Then your assistant can help be a supporting person while you're the surgeon in the room. Well,
I know one of the things that you do quite regularly, once a quarter or so, you have big parties at your place and you invite a lot of people. And when I first met you, you were talking about how your assistant puts all that together. And, I think about the different engagements that I've done where I've spent hours, weeks, and parts of months putting something together that I could have delegated to somebody else. There's so many wonderful reasons to have a great assistant and to have someone else help you find that great assistant. I can't plug you any and recommend you any higher than I am right now, because I personally will be using your company in the next 60 days at the long shot. Tim, it's been my pleasure to have you on. I'm glad that you've been able to share some valuable information. Is there anything here at the very end of the show that you'd like to share that you haven't had a chance to say?
Just appreciate you, and I hope that everybody out there gets the chance to fulfill their greatest potential and gets to stay in their zone of genius to make their greatest contribution to the world.
That's absolutely the key, staying in your zone of genius. Thank you for being on this show. It's been my honor to have you. Have a great day.
Thank you.